Merry Christmas. Can't hear you though.
All right, I got our theme music blasting in my ear. It's just weird, but yeah, Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
I was worried. Christmas is actually literally under attack. This is Remember when the Fox News used to talk about Christmas being under attack,
which they were correct about.
Shish, but like today it really is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's in Syria. The last I heard, they have banned, what is it? Christmas, I think. Of course. I mean, they are, who knows? We don't even know what they're doing, but these are the most ancient Christian communities in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the most beautiful Christian sites in the world. And this is now it's a country that's controlled by ISIS and Al-Qaeda, essentially. So, and they don't like Christians. They don't like Muslims who differ from them also. And they like to behead people who differ with them. But yeah, so Christianity it's really amazing. I'm just sort of, in the last couple of weeks, I've just been standing back and looking at the doings of the United States and Israel, but just this whole project of the United States over the last 20 to 30 years, what it's resulted in.
Mm-hmm.
Since you could say since 9/11, you could say since the 90s. I mean, look where we are in the Middle East. Look what it is, something else. We have accomplished.
This is, I think when James Lindsay is talking about the woke right, he is actually hinting at something very real happening, and I want to get into that. But Tucker Carlson keeps talking about that the goal of American foreign policy, and Candace Owen talks about this too, that the goal of American foreign policy over the last 100 years seems to be just murder Christians globally.
Okay, so that's some Candace Owens nonsense. That makes zero sense. Why would?
Well, look at the result of American foreign policy. The purpose of something is what it does, is the refrain that you hear from dissident right circles. And if the system is murdering Christians, like it did in Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki were Christian sites, apparently. There was a big Catholic community in Hiroshima.
Germany.
Yeah, Germany. Dresden. If you look at what happened to Dresden, if you look at what happens now with American foreign policy in the Middle East, you're basically, slaughtering Christians en masse. And the Christian populations in all these countries have gone down, and more violent Muslim jihadi groups have risen to power pretty much everywhere, whereas the more secular dictators were a little bit more tolerant of Christianity, whereas the jihadis seem to be waging holy war on it. And the United States foreign policy is doing everything they can to, in their eyes, wipe out these ancient Christian communities and these traditionalist communities.
Why would they?
Well, I think the forces of globalization, well, because they're satanic pedophiles, is the most obvious answer.
Mm-hmm. There are people who are otherwise smart on Twitter who actually think that. Mm-hmm. But no, I'm not sold on this. I mean, if you look at America's wars, I mean, they've killed a lot of non-Christians too, like let's say Iraq, for instance. Mm-hmm. And all of Israel's wars since 1967 have also been America's wars, by proxy, and that's almost exclusively been dead Muslims. Korea, Vietnam, certainly a lot of Christians in those countries because of the missionaries, mostly from the United States over the years, but also quite a few non-Christians. And then there's Afghanistan, 20 years of killing all non-Christians in Afghanistan. I don't know, man. I don't buy it. But mostly it's just, what's the motivation? Why would American imperialists want to kill Christians unless they are somehow a competition, a rival, mm-hmm. right? A rival empire, that could be the case. I mean, I could see that,
that's
not what's happening now.
Well, if you look at the current worldview, I guess, that brings that together is if you look at Russia as our main enemy. Russia is an Orthodox Christian empire, and Syria has a long Christian ancestry that's very, very Orthodox, that, you know, could unite with Russia culturally to make their empires stronger together. Also, Orthodox Christianity is against the values of secularized globalism, which is what our empire is trying to bring to the world. It's our driving force. So, yeah.
Well, okay, so now you're getting really meta here, but let's go for it. So, you know, looking at geopolitics as not just a contest among nation states, but also a contest among cultures.
Yeah.
Right. And so some people certainly talk about that, but always in dumb ways. And they miss perhaps what is the biggest cultural contest going on underneath, or maybe on top of, the geopolitical conflicts we all know about and are talking about. And now, of course, this brings up our good friend Alexander Dugin.
Yeah.
Right? That's where I think where you were going with this.
Well,
right?
yeah, he frames it as a war between traditionalists, and he sees Christians and Muslims as allies in the broader context. Traditionalists versus global liberal secularists, anti-traditionalists.
Yeah. So Dugin has been explicitly calling for an alliance between Orthodox Christianity and Islam, not political Islam, but I guess what you would call mainstream Islam, but specifically through the nation states and their alliance of Russia and Iran as the heads of that, which is now a major alliance. Lots of trading and cooperation of all kinds between Russia and Iran. One is sort of nominally, I guess, the head of the Orthodox world, and the other is the head nominally, in a sense, at least self-proclaimed, of the Islamic world. I mean, it's the largest, most powerful and influential Islamic country because Indonesia is not part of political Islam. Regardless, he sees that as the future. It's not exactly exciting to me because I have nothing to do with either culture. I respect both, but it does make sense. I think at least that is one layer of what's going on here, is that there has been an alliance between pre-modern religions, right? Represented in Eastern Eurasia. The key point of contestation in geopolitics, too. You know, if you control Eurasia, you control the world. Zbigniew Brzezinski told us in 1997 in the Grand Chessboard. He said, if you control Eurasia, United States, you will control the world. And that's why the United States has been doing what it's been doing in Eurasia ever since, which is bombing people and attempting to control as much of that territory as possible. And most importantly, attempting to eliminate rivals for power in Eurasia, like one Vladimir Putin, and like the Ayatollah of Iran. So that's why those two guys have been getting the most heat from the United States for decades, because they are the chief rivals for hegemony in Eurasia. On top of that, just sort of naked imperialist drive by the United States to maintain and extend its power, its dominion over that landmass and the people who live there, has been, at least among major parties involved, what Dugin has said is a contest, maybe a fight, maybe even a war between two sets, I would say, of starkly different cultures. So the culture of the West, the one that you and I live in, Western Europe and the United States, not to say that there's one singular unified culture, but sure, I mean, there are many things that the vast majority of people who live in the US and Western Europe abide by. Our values pretty similar.
Homosexuality and usury.
Yeah. It's basically mostly about sodomy, is what it comes
Sodomy and usury, yeah. Sodomy and usury.
Yeah. The stuff that certain groups like to do. that we favor, the groups that we like the most. I mean, take a look at, there is a video, it's sort of an amazing video of Gaza City. I think it's a month before October 7th. And it's just someone walking with his camera through, I've talked about this before, just walking through downtown Gaza City for like an hour, and you just see exactly what it looked like on the street. And every single woman is wearing a hijab, without exception. And it's just a very different world. It's a really different world. And there's, of course, many other things that follow from that are very different. The Eastern Orthodox culture is radically different than anything we have in the West. And I think that accounts for a lot of its appeal, by the way, among some of our friends. You know, it's Orthodox Christianity has been sort of, I don't want to say trendy, but there have been quite a few people sort of in radical politics.
Ortho
in
bros.
recent years. Ortho bros, yeah, who have taken it up. And, you know, these are some of my favorite people, so I don't want to denigrate it at all. But I do think that's part of the appeal. I mean, I think if you grew up in a tract home owned by BlackRock in a suburb 50 miles away from the nearest city, and you went to a public school that looks like not only a prison, but every other public school in prison, etc. The Orthodox Christianity, with its incense and its beards and its robes and its amazing stained glass and it's all the things, you know. But mostly it's authenticity.
Yeah.
And it seems real. And these men do say that their mission or job is to act like Christ, to be like Christ. And they carry that out as well as anyone I've seen among Christians, you know. So it's an impressive project, and I can understand living in a world of mass homogenization where it seems like everyone wears the same things and says the same things and most importantly thinks the same things. I can understand why Orthodox Christianity has been so appealing to some people. But in the East, where it really has taken hold, in Eurasia, you know, those two, Orthodox Christianity and Islam, have united through the nation states of Iran and Russia in a fight against what they both consider to be imperialist invaders who have brought with them to Eurasia a degenerate culture.
Well, I mean, look at the two allies that we have, the two causes we're championing as an empire. Ukraine, which is totally secular, totally corrupt, outlawing the practice of the Orthodox Church, and Israel, which last Christmas was bombing Bethlehem, and this Christmas they're bombing the historical Damascus and places. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So Zelensky, what did Zelensky do before he was president of Ukraine? He was a cross-dressing comedian.
Yeah.
Israel. Okay. Does anyone know about the nightlife in Tel Aviv? Look up the nightlife and just go on Yelp. You'll find mostly gay bars and sex parties, and you know, it's kind of stuff I love. I'm all for it. God bless them. It's the one thing I like about Israel, from what I can tell. But it is from an Orthodox or Islamic perspective, it is the soul of degeneracy, and this is exactly what the leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and all the rest have said about Israel, in part, is that not only are they imperialist invaders and colonizers, but they are teeming with filth. It is Sodom and Gomorrah. They say they're biblical. Yeah, only in that way is what is said about Israel. And it's right. But a lot of Israelis are mostly proud of that, by the way.
Yes.
Their sexual freedom, which again, for me, I just want to be really clear, that is the one thing I really like about Israel. It's sexual freedom. But there is a real clash, obviously, between right there, just Gaza. As I said, every woman wears a hijab, and there is pretty extreme sexual repression. I've read Hamas's rules about sex and sexual expression, and it is straight Sharia law, Puritanism with teeth or with swords. It is extremely harsh. It is as harsh as anything that was done in Puritan New England in the 17th century, and worse to some extent. And so there's a real clash. There is a real clash. And it's funny, on cultural issues, of course, I'm with the West on this. Not that I want to conquer they want to conquer. They want to extend the LGBTQ flag, quite literally, across the world, and that's what they've been trying to do. Literally at embassies, every U.S. embassy, I think, for a while had an LGBTQ flag on it. I don't know if I'm sure Trump will stop that, but that's real imperialism. So, but it's a tricky thing, right? I mean, I'm sort of well known in the whole book about like sexual freedom, right? But this is not what it is. That's not sexual freedom. It is an attempt to, as Dugan says, an attempt to impose the culture of the West on the East. What the United States has been doing in its foreign policy, like by withholding foreign aid unless a country adopts pro-LGBTQ legislation, or taking aid, like from Uganda, taking aid away and sanctioning Uganda when they passed that anti-gay bill. I hate homophobia. I'm very pro-gay, but I also don't want the United States to be imposing my culture, my preferences on anyone else in my name.
Well, what was it? 2 weeks ago, the very first Unregistered Live, where you argue that American imperialism is strictly Christian, that it's explicitly Christian, and I believe that the fighting force of Americans believed that for a long time. They believe that we literally are fighting to spread Christendom, that God has blessed the United States with manifest destiny to rule over this entire hemisphere, to be good shepherds for the entire world, to be the force of good. And those Christian families are the ones who have historically filled our military. And now that right wing is looking at American foreign policy and saying, wait a minute, I thought we were supposed to be spreading Christianity here. Our policy does nothing but result in dead Christians.
Yeah, and pink flags everywhere.
Yeah. I thought this was the crusade. Why are there rainbow flags everywhere that we're supposed to be putting up iron crosses?
I hadn't thought about that, because that's one of the things that's going on among military people, military families. Yeah, I think that's a big thing among MAGA folks, right? Is that, our military has been converted into an empire of fags.
It's become fake and gay.
Yes, right. We used to be a real empire of Christians. Now, so what you're doing though is reminding me of why I'm also not MAGA. These choices are not great right here. I don't really like either one. Thank you very much. I don't like what's Homo Globo. I don't like that, and I don't like a Christian empire either. Do we? And again, I want MAGA to start talking seriously about foreign policy. Why is it that Israel gets treated with such special dispensation, but we are America first? Why do we why is MAGA for sending billions of dollars of aid to Israel all the time, but is opposed to foreign aid everywhere else in the world? What can someone in MAGA please explain that? It is outrageous to me, and it's like makes my skin boil that they're doing that. And yeah, do you all want just a different kind of empire? Is it just you want to replace the homos with priests and preachers, and you want to go convert the peoples of Iran and Russia and China and Venezuela to a proper Protestant Christianity that is pro-American? Is that what you want to do? Because it sounds like, not Trump himself, but the people he has surrounded himself with, and in particular on his foreign policy team, seem to be like that kind of guy. They seem to be like, go invade that country and convert them to Christianity, as Ann Coulter said we should do a few years ago. I don't know if you remember that. Kind of an awesome, was it a tweet or a speech? I forget, but it was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah. Well, I think she was saying that on Bill Maher like 20 years ago when we were first debating.
Yeah. I loved it. It's like, I love it when people are explicit and honest. Yeah. We should invade their countries and convert them to Christianity, is what she said. I'm afraid that might be the animating sentiment among people in the MAGA movement around Donald Trump, and they might even be in his cabinet. And I'm very nervous that starting on January 20th, there might be a lot of aggressive military moves to accomplish those ends that are going to look like neocon central. I don't know. I hope not, but it's these people around him are fanatics. I mean, especially around Israel, but around Israel, Iran, Islam,
they don't. All right.
They're crazy. They're freaks. I mean,
from an Orthodox Christian or Catholic perspective, these people do not love Israel because they're not trying to convert them. If they love them, they try to be saving their souls right now. And instead, they have like this idea of a parallel tract where Israel gets to remain Jewish forever or until the end times, I guess. But like, I don't think these people are serious theological crusaders. I don't think there's a serious crusader except maybe Hegseth.
Listen, he had sex with a woman who was in the hotel with her husband and 2 kids. She left their hotel room to go have sex with Pete Hegseth. So for that, I'll give him a pass for everything.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's a real Christian now because of that, because of the guilt he has over that. I've seen him talk about this.
Oh yeah, he's talked. Okay.
Oh no, this is what he says. Yeah, he did a whole thing on Megyn Kelly about it.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that. Yeah,
I think largely because of that specific incident,
mm-hmm.
his life of philandering and drinking in general, he has turned to Christ, and by all accounts, especially his account, he is truly a man of God now,
mm-hmm.
and has been for a while, and so is a paragon of repression, and we should trust him to be Secretary of Defense. Well, I mean, we do want our soldiers to be repressed. I mean, we do, right? And we do.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope he is. I hope he is truly repressed now and no longer wants to have sex with women or drink.
Well, it's not that he doesn't want to. It's just that.
Well, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, no, but he wants it less than he wants Jesus.
Yeah.
His real love is for Jesus.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
But no, they're freaks, man. They're maniacs. They're fanatics about these issues in particular. Mm-hmm. Every single one of them. Every single person he has nominated for his foreign policy stuff, I guess, except for Tulsi. But even she on Islamic terrorism is a straight neocon. I mean, she wants to go hard on Gaza. She wants to go hard on Iran.
Well, yeah. she wants to, yeah. Her only dissension was Syria, and that's because we were fighting for Al-Qaeda. She wants to stop fighting the wars for Al-Qaeda so we can start fighting the wars against Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to step back again and survey the scene here.
Mm-hmm.
So now that Al-Qaeda has taken control of Syria.
Yeah.
It's just... I mean, so yeah, begin with 9/11, 2001, right? So 9/11 happens, we go to war in Afghanistan. Okay. Total disaster, 20 years, more than $1 trillion, thousands of our own people killed, many, many thousands of those people killed, and the Taliban is in control of Afghanistan as a result. Whew, that's bad. Next war, next year, Iraq, 2003. Big invasion, 500,000 troops sent there, thousands of our people killed, many, many hundreds of thousands of their people killed. Country is plunged into chaos because of this invasion and occupation, costs us another $1 trillion or more. And the result? Iran controls the government of Iraq now. Syria, when the regime change didn't go well in Iraq, and this is known, by the way, the plan was originally, I don't know how many people know this, but the original plan was to immediately after the super successful invasion of Iraq would happen, they thought in 2003, I'm talking about Rumsfeld, Cheney, Wolfowitz, the big planners, the plan was they would go immediately pivot west and invade Syria and kick out Assad too. They were going to do a twofer in 2003. In spring of 2003, they were planning on invading both countries and doing regime change in both. They only got, as we know, to Iraq and it didn't go so well. So they scratched their plans to go after Assad at that moment. Assad then survives. He survives a few more years. He survives the Arab Spring, Israel, Netanyahu has been saying we got to take out Assad, because he is helping Iran funnel weapons and money to Hezbollah and somewhat to Hamas, but mostly Hezbollah. And the United States has to do the bidding of Israel in this case, because Israel, yes, is our most important ally in the Middle East. And so we need to make them feel comfortable and take on the threats to Israel. And so that's why the United States in 2011, under Obama, began funneling money and weapons and giving training and military direction to the Syrian resistance groups, including the Al-Nusra Front, which is and was the affiliate of Al-Qaeda in Syria. No question about it. By the way, also affiliated with ISIS. The leader, this guy Jelani, was both Al-Qaeda and ISIS before he did this, and funneled billions of dollars. This was the largest covert operation in American CIA history, which is saying a whole lot. 500, 600,000 people died, many of those as a result of what the United States did in funding these fanatical Islamist groups who did lots of the killing. Yes, Assad and his forces did a whole lot of killing, but so did those Islamist groups that the United States was funding. About half is what most people think. So several 100,000 people dead, billions of dollars thrown into this. And the result is Al-Qaeda controls Syria. So we've got Iran controlling Iraq. We've got Al-Qaeda controlling Syria, and the Taliban controlling Afghanistan as the result of the 24-year war on terror. Congratulations, everybody. Let's take a round of applause and hope that the brown hordes don't come for us someday in revenge for what we've done to their countries. We have killed hundreds of thousands of people, spent trillions of dollars, and the result is that terrorists won in every country. And yet we are still talking about maintaining those military bases all around the world. We are still talking about increasing the military budget. We are still talking about funding Israel. We're still talking about going to a war with Iran. We're still talking about doing all the things we've done. Well, what?
Well, the terrorists are like the perfect allies for the United States. We funnel our weapons to them forever. But also they're kind of weak and they're always fighting each other and they can never establish a strong enough government, but they always perpetuate the need for there to be instability there for us to be there. So we get perpetual war there forever, and we never get an actual adversary that could take us on in any real meaningful sense. So it's like the destabilization was the goal, right? Going back to the point of a system is what it does.
East Asia.
Yeah.
Right. It's the 1984 strategy. I don't think that's real though. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's the way that they think.
I don't think that's the way that they think, but I think that's the way the incentives are lined up for that to happen forever.
I suppose. Again, this is truly the question of today, of this era in the history of the United States, whether there has been a massive pivot, and I think there might have been. Again, this is what Daniel Bessner and I talked about on Unregistered. Whether they're still ideologically committed to the American empire, or not, or they're just doing this sort of as a zombie empire, just to hold on to the power that they have, or are they still ideologically committed to uplifting the world and remaking the world in our image? Are they still into that, or
they're not?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. Maybe not.
Has any reporter even asked Joe Biden when is there going to be elections in Syria? When are there going to be elections in Syria? Right.
Well, that's
Assad's gone, so now it's time for democracy. What's the plan to put democracy in there? When are there going to be elections? right?
So here's the thing that's happening with Jelani, by the way, and that I don't know if you've noticed, but just in the last few days already, like all the pro-Israel people are already throwing him under the bus. They're saying,
Interesting.
They're like,
he just
they're like, wait a minute, he's still Al Qaeda. He's not going to change his spots. It's kind of this kind of thing, oh God, those crazy Syrians and the Arabs, and he's not good. This is not going to be good. So they're already setting up. He's going to be dead within a year for sure.
They tried to give him a quick, brief media rehabilitation tour where he was like, "Oh, the jihadi stuff was just a phase," but that's not sticking.
No, but I can see Israel's already planning to kill him, get rid of him, and replace him with someone better for them, and the U.S. I mean, the U.S. I'm sure is part of this, but I'm just saying that the big Israel accounts, the big Israeli spokespeople have been saying over the last few days, he's no good. Wait, we don't trust him. This is crazy. He's the head of Al Qaeda. I'm like, yeah, you guys put him there. But so I think that they're trying to find someone to replace him. So I'm trying to find someone to replace him with.
There's a guy in Moscow I think would be pretty good.
Who?
Well, Assad. He's still alive. Right. He's still alive.
I forgot. That's where he went. Yeah.
And he's going to start a podcast.
I just love all these like New York Times liberals on their podcast just going, and I hope he has the worst life ever in Moscow. I hope the winter's really cold. I actually heard them say that. It's really funny. Because it's like, what is that? Like what? I don't need to do that about even when I know that they really are that bad of a dictator. I knew about Idi Amin eating people, but I didn't need to be mad at him about it. I just didn't want my government helping him with anything. It's really funny, man. The performative outrage of liberals is just endlessly entertaining. Yeah, this is just astounding where we have come after 24 years of the war on terror, where we have arrived. And so we've arrived at those places where those three major sites of contestation in the war on terror are all controlled by the terrorists. And the killing is still going on just as rapidly as ever. We're killing more people in the Middle East right now than probably even during the Iraq War. I mean, I don't know. Was Fallujah more deadly than the last month or two? I doubt it. I mean, between Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza, it's been just a blood fiesta. I mean, they've really been getting down. How many people have they killed in the last year in the Middle East between the United States and Israel? I mean, we don't know because of all the bodies under the rubble in Gaza. We don't know the count yet, and then Iran, we don't know. I don't think they killed many, if anybody, in Iran. Maybe a few people. They killed, of course, the the Hamas leader. But in terms of civilians, mass casualties, so they were bombing Syria all the way to the last 14 months, by the way. They've been bombing Damascus for months and months and months. Israel has. Lebanon, they were utterly vicious in the south. Thousands and thousands of people. I mean, overall, by the time this particular extended war is over, it's going to be over 100,000. But they're already pushing on that number now, I would think, because Gaza alone is over 50. Got to be well over 50. I mean, it's just phenomenal what these people are willing to do to protect that little ethno-state. It is remarkable. When most Jews, and I am saying this with absolute knowledge, most Jews in America don't really care about Israel. They never talk about it unless they're asked about it. They never think about it unless Israel is in some god-awful war. I've been around Jews my whole life. They never talk about it. They don't care about it, I promise you, except for the handful of Jews who went to Zionist summer camp, who were indoctrinated. Yeah, they care about Israel a lot, but that's the very small percentage of Jews in America. This is so ridiculous. This is the safest country in the history of the world for Jews to live in. It has been for centuries, the United States. And we don't need that fucking apartheid ethno-state.
Okay. I mean,
we never have.
We also live in a democracy, right? And Jews are 2% of the population. And so maybe they shouldn't have, even if they were theoretically in favor of Israel, and even if Israel theoretically served their interests, what does that have to do with the United States?
Oh, well, sure.
For
Yeah,
the
no.
98% of us here. Yeah.
I'm just saying, even from the Jews' perspective, it doesn't
Yeah.
make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, it's bad for Jews. I mean,
I
it's
know.
obviously bad for Jews. It's killed 30,000 of them. 30,000 Israelis have been killed. No Jews in America have been killed in that time. None for being Jewish. I mean, essentially for political reasons. 30,000 plus have been killed in Israel. So tell me, which is the Jewish homeland? Safe haven?
Yeah.
Where should we be protected? I mean, sorry.
Okay, I do want to talk about what I was saying earlier about the woke right.
No, you're about to get into some anti-Semitic stuff, so why don't we just do that?
It's just I'm just saying we don't have an obligation to care about Jews. I'm just like sick of how that dominates the discourse of all of this. Is that there's some like hidden assumption that the interests of Jews are the most important thing, like no matter what, that like that's what should be driving this, is that this 2% minority is everything, you know.
So this is Norm Finkelstein. This is his thing. He explains it. It's the Holocaust industry. That's the name of his book, and it's the argument. That is the reason they, meaning the Zionists, the original Zionists, and then their successors, have exploited the Holocaust history and created whole myths out of the Holocaust too, that has so thoroughly penetrated the consciousness and the psyche of the Westerner, the average Westerner, that it's just insurmountable. I mean, it's going to take generations, I think, or at least many, many years to sort of flush that out. And for them to, I think it's going to need tens of thousands more dead children for people to get over this thing about how the Jews had the Holocaust, and that means we need to let them do anything because of the horrible oppression that Jews have faced. They're the blacks for, as I said, for sort of the mainstream, and they're blacks for the right wing for sure. This perpetual victim, this eternal victim, who's also virtuous, right? Because we think of Israelis as, the most heroic, virtuous, strong, tough heroes who saved themselves and their people from the Holocaust by founding this nation, against all odds, which is somewhat true, by the way. What they were brave in many ways and utterly vicious too. It's this whole mythological scaffolding that unfortunately inhabits the minds of most thinking Americans. Most Americans who are political at all have this built into our heads. Israel's good, and the Holocaust and Jews and Hitler, and therefore they can have their state and need to have their state, and any attempt to stop them from having this state is anti-Semitic and blah, blah, blah. It's really tough. When the last Holocaust survivor is dead, maybe we can start having this conversation when there's no more of them around. And maybe, but I think it's just, again, it's going to be military, unfortunately. I mean, the answer to all these questions, unfortunately, will be military. It's about losing. They're going to have to lose, meaning Israel and the United States are going to have to lose in the Middle East. And unfortunately, over the last few months, they've been winning. Although I think only temporarily and only in battles. The war is still, I think, still moving pretty ineluctably against the United States and Israel. For one thing, they're both now pariah states. Israel is most certainly a pariah state, like it's never been before. And the United States is kind of locked at the hip with them. So there's that. They're just losing allies. They're losing potential allies around the world. And can they sustain this killing? For how long? It's expensive. It draws down morale. Apparently, morale in the IDF is just rock bottom right now. And there's a lot of, they're not reporting this, but there's a lot of soldiers who are refusing to fight, refusing to serve. It's a whole class of refuseniks who are in Israeli prisons right now, not because they're political, like the people I interviewed on my show, but just because they don't want to fight anymore. They're just tired of it. Israel's economy is in the tank also. It's been downgraded, I think, 3 times by credit agencies. So I don't, and of course the American economy is just one giant pile of debt. There's nothing real about it. There's no economy. We're financing these wars by printing money. We always have. But then again, I and we and people like me have been saying this about the American empire and even about Israel for decades. And look where we are now. They're killing more people this week than they maybe ever have since Vietnam. Just in the last month, 2 months since Vietnam. This is the most blood we have shed in a long time. And there's victories. The US and Israel have had serious victories. The entire top Hezbollah leadership is dead. The entire Hamas leadership is dead, basically, except for the couple who live in Doha. Assad is gone. We don't know about Iran. I don't think Iran has been damaged significantly. I think they still have their basic arsenal, and I think they still have their basic manpower. But other than that, though, yeah, Israel and the United States, through just unbelievably ruthless, merciless killing, have seriously damaged what we call the resistance. But so it's just, all this is doing is prolonging the inevitable, I believe, which makes me most sad. Israel can't win. There's no winning in Israel, right? Because the people around them will never stop resisting. I mean, that's the thing about Israel. It's so grotesque, and it's not even fatal. It's just grotesque. They're choosing this path of perpetual warfare because the people around them, the Palestinians and the Arabs, will not accept a Jewish ethno-state there. They never have, and why will they ever? So that means if you choose to live in Israel, you are choosing to live in war forever. It's just incredible that people think that that's a good idea for Jews, that Jews should be living in perpetual warfare with people who are built to hate them by the circumstances that the Jews put them in. How is that good for Jews? I mean, I really do see anti-Semitism now. I was watching, Elijah Schaefer. What's his name? He was like a Turning Points TP USA kind of guy, I think. You're muted.
Yeah. He was on the Blaze, Glenn Beck's program. Yeah.
So he's like full on anti-Semitic now. Anti-Israel, but he's just taken that in. And I've discovered there's a sort of a cadre of fairly prominent people in right-wing politics who are not anti-Zionist, they are anti-Semitic. And they have a whole conspiracy theory about the Jews, half of which is true, and half of which is just stupid racism. And I'm not terribly concerned about that. It's such a dumb analysis. That's the worst thing about it. It takes us further away from understanding what's really going on. It is not a Jewish conspiracy. As I said, most Jews don't even care about Israel, have never given $1 to the place, have never been there. I promise you. It's a Zionist conspiracy. It's a conspiracy of some Jews over the last century, for sure. An absolute nefarious conspiracy, much of which has been conducted in secret. Yeah, but it's not a conspiracy of Jews. But I see this more and more. This was like a major Twitter space. He had this whole long thing, Schaefer and this other guy, Arthur Kwan. He's like Korean, I think, Korean American guy who's like professional anti-Semite. Schaefer's big. He's got a big platform, like hundreds of thousands of people. And again, I'm not concerned that there's going to be pogroms in the streets. I'm not worried for my son's safety, but it's just dumb. Like, that is not what Zionism is about. That's not what Israel is about. That's not what this is all about. The geopolitical nightmare in the Middle East is the product of many forces. It's not a product of the conspiracy of Jews. Just please separate Zionists from Jews. Don't let Israel conflate those two. That is the worst crime of all, from my perspective, is the conflation of Jews with Israel and Zionism. It is hideous. Zionism is nothing but vicious, because it has to be. And Jewish culture, sure, has its problems, but it also is, from my perspective, it is one of the most glorious of all the cultures on earth. And I'm really happy that I've been a part of it and around it and influenced by it across my life. Zionism is a grotesque perversion of what it is to be Jewish. And the idea that they conflate those two is just that people believe that they're one and the same, that all Jews are somehow affiliated with Israel. I mean, it is dangerous to some extent, and it could get innocent Jewish people killed for sure. But it's just not right, and it's not true, and it is stupid. But it's becoming, it seems to me, largely because of Israel doing what it's doing, it's starting to become more mainstream. Have you seen that? Well, you agree with it all, but you mean all those truth tellers out there telling the truth about them Hebrews?
Well, it's tough because like you have to be on the cutting edge, like you have to be outside the norm, and so many things have come to light. Like being anti-Israel at all was seen like, and like legit anti-Semites. This is where I defend these people, is like they were right about this first, and they were the only people screaming about Israel into the ether for decades. Like that, and yeah,
they weren't the only ones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was a good solid left-wing anti-Zionism going all the way back, right?
But those people are way less serious than Nazis, in my opinion. Those people are like
no. The Norm Finkelsteins of the world? That's what I'm talking about. The Norman Finkelsteins. That's what I'm talking about. No, of course, there's a communist anti-Zionism that goes all the way back. All the way back. So no, I mean, those are the only opponents of Israel in its first 10 or 20 years of existence, was hard right-wing anti-Semites and communists.
And Farrakhan and the
right. Malcolm X, you're right. Nation of Islam and the Black Panthers, correct. Right.
Yeah.
Now it's mainstream.
Yeah.
Which is fun. But yeah, I just can't anyway, this so wait, to answer the question. Do you see it as more mainstream now? That kind of anti-Semitism?
I mean, yes, but
and hallelujah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it as dangerous necessarily. I don't see it inhabiting a dangerous form.
No,
necessarily.
Me neither.
Yeah.
It's just dumb.
Well, I think it's just a result of the whole topic being so taboo, and because of the fact that, all right, as you say, it's not a conspiracy of Jews, but it's a conspiracy that large elements happen to be entirely Jewish.
Sure. Yeah. And no, it's a conspiracy of certain Jews. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And
I mean, like, so evangelical churches, that would be sort of equivalent, right? Evangelical churches that go out to the third world and convert a bunch of people and create new churches there, in their name. Like, do they represent all Christians? I mean, no, of course not. It's a project of specific Christians.
Well, it's tough because,
and by the way, of course, many Orthodox Jews believe that Zionism is idolatrous.
Mm-hmm.
It is anti-Judaic. The whole idea of the state of Israel is contrary to the religion, according to many, many rabbis, right?
Yeah.
So it is clearly just a conspiracy of certain Jews.
Well, if you look at the October 7th episode where I didn't want to talk about Israel at all, it was because, I mean, I don't want to be thinking about Jews all the time. For every week, I'm sick of the mental space that they're forced to take in my head. But because of this issue,
it's conversion therapy. You just got constant exposure will break down your defenses, and then finally you will let go of these racist ideas you've had since childhood.
I haven't had them since childhood. I've earned these ideas.
And join the community of man, Michael. We're here. We'll welcome you with open arms. You can come be with humanity. You can stop building your fortress of hate. Okay, just up there with your little guns and your little trad wife, like looking down with a turret, like trying to shoot all the Negroes you can see. It's just come be with us. It's like that old Coke commercial. It's like all these people of all colors on the hillside singing and dancing together in harmony.
Yeah,
it's really beautiful.
Well, if you want me to accept these hypothetical Negroes into the Brotherhood of Man, can you tell them to return my shoes that they stole?
We've just been like demonetized and then remonetized and demonetized, and we've probably been reported to some agency by now. Anyway, all right. What was your point?
My point is, well, I think wokeness and liberal racial politics have mainstreamed racialized thinking. And if you think in racial terms, the logical conclusion of that is anti-Semitism.
Wait, why is that?
Because they're a minority, they're an outsized minority, and of that minority, that group is causing all the problems in the world through this country called Israel. They're controlling our government. They're promoting all the bad things in the world. Like, they are, I don't believe this because I'm not a racist, but if I were a racist, and if I were, this is what I believe.
I have this friend, he's a racist. And what I'm saying is, if you guys keep doing this shit, he's going to get really mad and shoot all of you.
Yeah.
It's kind of the vibe we're getting here. Okay,
Yeah. But no, it's like, wokeness promoted in-group racial thinking. Not even in-group.
Are you wearing camo? Is that camo?
No, it's actually some sort of African-looking stuff.
Oh, okay.
It's a beautiful yellow-brown.
Okay, good.
Yeah, with waves and stuff.
It's not a school shooter's uniform.
No, it's not. And but by the way, the school shooters are unfortunately left-wing now. They're all feminists and trannies now.
Trans, yeah.
What happened to the Nazi school shooters of the 90s, man? What happened to the
they were
Nietzsche
fun. They were a good time. Yeah, I really liked the Columbine guys with their manifestos and everything. It was cool stuff.
Yeah. Even Elliot Rodger.
No, extremely depressing. This is what I hate about America and its fucking guns. But I'm pro gun control for liberals. Well, liberals should not be allowed to have guns.
Yeah, but you should get a free gun when you vote for Trump.
Yeah, maybe two.
Yeah,
I mean, is there a deal? 1999. Yeah, the art of the deal.
Yeah.
Okay, we got 6 minutes. What do you want to do?
I know. I wanted to talk about AI and quantum computing and Bitcoin.
Let's do it. What about it? I'm all for it.
Okay.
Let it rip. Well, no. So we have some stuff going. So the Trump administration, right? The incoming, assuming he gets these people confirmed, but it's pretty radical. Like he's got on domestic policies. It's stuff that for me is fairly exciting. I mean, I don't know what he's going to get done, but so who's the David Sachs, for God's sake. He has nominated to be, I think it's a new position, the head of crypto, basically crypto policy and something else and technology or something like that. Like now, what does that mean exactly? Who knows? But there will be a massive voice in the cabinet in Washington, D.C. who is 100% down with crypto freedom, tech freedom, all of it. David Sachs on those issues is fantastic from my perspective. And it's amazing. He's quite radical. He's also really good on foreign policy, certainly on Ukraine and Russia. So he will at least have maybe an opportunity to speak within that world. I hope he gets some voice on foreign policy as well. Then you got, of course, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, the heads of this agency that has no real enforcement power, but at least will make a lot of noise about reducing government size and efficient and waste and all that, and making government more efficient and just cutting. I don't know. We have a Republican Congress, so there's a real possibility to get some real cuts done. I do think the U.S. budget will be significantly smaller in 4 years. Don't you think? I do think they're going to reduce overall. I think there will be some serious cuts going on because they have Congress.
Yeah, the first surplus since Bill Clinton would be great. It would be a great accomplishment to have. Yeah.
That might be impossible, but they're not going to. They're going to increase the military budget because that's what Americans do.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of amazing. Every single military budget since 1945 has been larger than the years past. It's just been up, up, and up. And Trump, of course, has said all along he wants an even bigger military. It's not big enough for him, so that's not going to be reduced. But I would think that they're going to cut a lot of stuff because he's filled it with business people. He's
Mm-hmm.
appointing lots of major business people to positions, economic positions. So this could be good if you have libertarian sensibilities around these things, which I do. I think it's going to be very good, and then we will be making more money, producing more GDP to build bombs with. It's a happy cycle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's sort of the history of the United States in the last 100 years. Is we've built up all these surpluses with our tremendous productive capacity and used it to build bombs. And that's why I cannot get on the freeway and drive a mile without going over ruts and divots and potholes on the freeway in California. Trump's right. The infrastructure is terrible. The schools are terrible. The health system is terrible. Lots of things are terrible that, other countries have going very well for them. We can't afford stuff in large part because we have spent trillions of dollars on these wars and this empire. 800 military bases with hundreds of thousands of troops stationed there all across the globe. You know how much that costs per year? Of course we can't have nice things. I just can't believe we're still talking about this and people still haven't gotten the message. We just put the head of Al-Qaeda as the head of Syria, and people are like, oh, that's weird. I mean, for 600,000 dead bodies and billions of dollars in treasure spent on this to get Al-Qaeda as the head of Syria, and all people have to say is, oh, that's weird. Is he really going to change his spots? Americans are so profoundly stupid and almost willfully ignorant about these issues. These people can get it. This is what I was getting to. They can make the most outrageous policy decisions that result in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people and produces terrorist regimes. And we just continue because do you see Americans getting upset about this? I don't. Do you see any Americans saying, I'm not going to vote for these bastards if they do this again? No. I'm not going to vote for them if they fund a dirty war that kills hundreds of thousands of people, including lots of children, and produces an Al-Qaeda leadership in Syria. I'm not going to vote for anybody. Do you see anybody saying that? No. It's just going to go on forever. It's the zombie empire. I'm sorry to say. And I wish Americans would look at a map and start to care. But so be it. I just hope they don't kill all of us in attempting to maintain this empire. I hope that, I and my son survive this era of the end of the American empire. I hope we all do. I just hope we go out with a relatively small bang. But we'll see. It is scary. On that note.
Yeah.
It's just about the Jews, man. That's the thing.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to get at there is your criticism of racism is that it's dumb. I think oftentimes it's just pattern recognition, and it saves people time, and it actually makes the world more efficient. And having prejudices is actually something that can actually help you in life. It serves a purpose, I think. But
yeah, it's a heuristic.
Yeah.
No, every time I see someone going the wrong way on a one-way street, I know it's an Asian. That helps me. I know, like I can pat. That's what you're saying, right? I can see, like if I see an Asian driving, I go the other direction. Like, isn't that?
If I visit,
so it's helpful.
Yeah.
If you live in a place with a lot of Asians, like I do, what are you saying?
Well, what I was getting at is,
would you choose a Jew or a Nigerian as your brain surgeon?
Brain surgeon? Yeah, Jew.
Or an Indian.
Well, those are all great options. Ththose are all
true. The West Africans are
in the
fine.
United States.
Right.
Those are yeah.
Indian or Jew, brain surgeon.
Indian or Jew for brain surgeon.
Tough
Again,
one.
I'm happy either way. I'm happy.
Either way, okay, good.
I'm happy either way. But
I won't name another
yeah.
group then.
But dentists.
Before we get run out of town here.
Well,
dentists. Who do you want as your dentist?
They're both great.
Which ethnic group does the best dentistry? I don't know.
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah.
I've had Jewish dentists.
Mm-hmm.
Very talkative. It's difficult because you can't talk, Mm-hmm. So I don't recommend Jewish dentists for that, because they're very loquacious. So mm-hmm. you want a quiet ethnicity to be in your mouth.
Yeah, but would you admit that within the logic of racism, right? If we're thinking racialist at all, which is
always good,
blaming white people for all of the world's problems. White people are just brutal conquerors. They hate every other race. They're jealous of every other race. That's why they hate them and they want to punish them forever. White people are the problem for everything. If you think like that, isn't anti-Semitism a smarter and more logical conclusion than anti-white racism?
Because Jews are more powerful?
Because they are more, well, they're not a monolith. They're more of a minority.
Trust me, they're not.
Yeah, they're not a monolith, but among polling, they have more in-group preference. If you want to point to a conspiracy, Jews, when they answer polls.
And thank you very much.
Okay.
We'll see you next week. Join us for our after show.
I mean, I think.
Oh my!
If we're gonna be, yeah,
we're never gonna get a job in this town again, kid.
Yeah,
that's what they said in Hollywood when you're anti-Semitic. All right, dude. Mm-hmm. I think you need to go think. Okay, on your own. Take a long walk. Maybe just reflect on your choices, and we'll come back next week, and you can tell us how you're reformed and you're joining the community of man.
Well, okay.
You
were talking about the spread of anti-Semitism as if it's a bad thing. And
right.
I think if you want to avoid it, you have to confront it head on and take it seriously. Or you have to stop the current Jewish ethno-state from murdering a ton of people and causing problems for the United States.
I like that option.
Yeah. So I still don't think we've actually, as a culture, intellectually taken their arguments head on. And every time, because for some reason, whenever you make an anti-Semitic argument, it's bad for business. For some reason, when that happens, it is bad for business. So nobody actually airs those arguments out. These arguments are never actually addressed head on. And so they have this mystique of being correct, and yet this mystique of being brave for addressing anti-Semitic arguments and championing them. And they're never actually dissected head on, ever. Also is a big thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It has something, I can't quite understand what you're saying, but it has something to do with horns on the head. I know that. And about children's blood or adrenochrome or something.
Again, if we're going to be talking about Jews this much, we might as well air out anti-Semitic arguments and treat them seriously, and at least give them some air.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next week we'll do that. Next week.
Yeah. Oh no! And then
Or we'll do an anti-Semitic encore.
Yeah. Well, again, and if we're going to be called anti-Semitic regardless, right? For opposing Israel, you get called anti-Semitic regardless. They tell you that's your real motivation. Is not you don't actually care about the world and the people they're killing. You just magically hate Jews for some reason, as if there's a reason.
Yeah. Jews have never done anything wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Ever.
the first thing. They haven't. Okay. I know them. Okay, I know those people.
Mhm.
Okay, they're a good people and really smart too.
Yeah.
Okay, we're out of here.
Okay.
You got to go, right?
I do.
We've got a short show tonight, ladies and gentlemen, but the after show happens. By the way, it's now called the after show after Unreported on Wednesday nights. This is pre-recorded. Sorry to break that to you now. Maybe you figured this out by now, but we will have the after show beginning at 8:30 Eastern, which will be shortly after this airs. Join us, and if you want to hang out in our Zoom meeting after Unreported every Wednesday night, become a patron. You want to show the URL? Patreon.com/unregistered. Become a member at any level. Where is it? Got it?
Yeah. I mean,
you mean what?
Let me get our banners up. Here we go.
Patreon.com. Thanks, dude. That's great. That's really helpful. Patreon.com/unregistered. This is not Breitbart. We do real journalism. We're real thinkers here. We take our racism seriously, unlike them.
Mhm.
So yeah, $5 a month, and you can hang out with us and yell at me for being a racist. And then go to unregisteredacademy.com and see all of our amazing courses. And tomorrow, well, Thursday night, we're doing Unregistered Live, the live stream, in which I will be showing the public some of the things we're doing at the Academy, some of the research we're doing, some of the scholarship we're doing, the teaching, and how it relates to today's news stories. So definitely come watch tomorrow night, Thursday, the Unregistered live stream, 7:00 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel.
Again,
what?
I just came here wanting to talk about Bitcoin, about AI, about quantum computing, and maybe biolabs and Igor Kirillov and all that. We didn't get to that.
Well, next time.
Yeah.
And how the Jews are behind all of it?
Well, can you just ask the Jews? Can you go to the Jews on your behalf, since you go to all those meetings? Since you go to the meetings, yeah. Can you just say?
I got one real soon.
Yeah. Can you just say, hey, let's lay low for a week? Can we just not do anything for a week so Michael doesn't have to talk about it?
Guys, we've been overdoing it a little bit, don't you think? Just you don't have to be so active, you know. Take it down. That's Zionists, not Jews. All right, gotta go.
All right.
Peace.
Okay.
Bye.
Playing the outro.